All right. I hope everybody is having a great day today. It is Wednesday. It is not Monday. And a couple people did text me why we did not have in a Zoom on Monday, and I apologize. I had a conflict and so decided to just move it to Wednesday instead of uh, canceling it all over. So let me finish my logging in here so that I have my laptop. There we go. And so everybody, I believe, is back at school. So I brought my Dr. Seuss mug, if you can see it. Oh, the places you will go. So certainly it's time for learning and back to school. And there are some parents that are probably happy. There are some parents that are probably not happy that they wanted the summer to last a little bit longer. But congratulations to everybody who had a great first day of school. My kids are grown, so I don't really have that anymore, but certainly it is a fun time for all. So, uh, what is today? Today is National Waffle Day. Can you believe that? National Waffle Day. Waffle Day is so fun, and I don't know, waffles are kind of my favorite thing. So National Waffle Day, National Crab Soup Day. So there's quite a bit of food in the day of today. So just wanted to give you a quick day, honestly, and then certainly those are good fun things to do to eat and have fun on. So what is going on in Springfield? I'm a little bit off of my rhythm here because it's Wednesday and not Monday. But what is going on in Springfield? So we're having a couple of committee hearings. I talked to you about a little couple of committee hearings. House International Relations, Tourism, and Trade Committee will meet on Tuesday, September 16th at 12:30 p.m. If you want to zoom in, they're going to be discussing the Trump administration tariffs and how Illinois can respond to them and certainly protect our businesses and the consumers here in Illinois and how we are going to address those things. Also, House Gun Violence Committee will meet on Monday, September 22nd at 11 a.m. to discuss community violence intervention. The Senate Energy and Public Utilities Committee hearings will meet on have met on August 18th, and they discussed concerns that reductions in federal spending on clean energy will put further strains on the clean energy goals and the price of producing and delivering power in Illinois. So the really the testimony was really good. They heard from all sorts of different stakeholders with regards to this very serious issue. Um, Illinois has been a long leader in clean energy, and growing uncertainty of the market is really starting to put a strain on things and reducing the number of projects. I mean, we're seeing projects that were almost completed being completely stalled or stopped because of the federal government. Of the individuals that testified, Attorney General Kwame Raoul and a group of 18 other attorney generals, they talked about how there is a lawsuit to stop the federal government from blocking money that benefits state-run energy programs, such as the Illinois Clean Energy Innovation Fund. So certainly that is what is on my disk as well. The Auditor General submits reports almost every month, and this month is Medicaid eligibility for long-term care. So the Auditor General released the report on Medicaid eligibility determinations for long-term care. It reveals that determinations are delayed and produced 6 recommendations for the entities to assist. So that is what we are looking at today. Now, Springfield stuff. The governor took action on all bills set by the General Assembly this past week. In total, the governor signed 433 bills, 231 House bills, 202 Senate bills. He issued 2 total vetoes and 1 amendatory veto. This week, the governor signed 2 reproductive health care bills, House Bill 3637, which expands the current SHIELD law to cover all healthcare providers and ensures that the law continues to protect prescriptions related to medication that was previously approved by the FDA but later revoked. And House Bill 3709 requires public colleges and universities to offer choices in contraception and medication for reproductive health services. So they served that. The governor signed two bills related to cryptocurrency. Senate Bill 1797 creates the Digital Assets and Consumer Protection Act to provide the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation with regulatory oversight of cryptocurrencies. And Senate Bill 2319 creates protections for consumers that use digital asset kiosks. They signed Senate Bill 1181, which clarifies and expands the protections in the Citizen Participation Act that encourages freedom for citizens and the press to express opinions and report on investigative matters of concern. And then Senate Bill 1519 prevents schools from issuing fees or tickets for municipal violations while on school grounds and during school hours. You might have heard me talk about that before. Schools were calling officers to come and ticket students in the schools. So municipal law enforcement is meant for enforcing the laws of our state. School districts should learn how to manage the schools. Other things that are that were a law that came to be. So Senator Robert Pettis had a new law that's creating the Office of the State Public Defender, an independent office under the state's judicial branch. This is marking one of the most substantial reforms of Illinois' public defense system. So the State Public Defender is a government-employed lawyer who provides legal representation to individuals accused of or convicted of a crime. But they cannot afford to hire their own attorney, so public defender offices are one of three methods through which states and localities ensure defendants are granted their rights under the 6th and the 14th Amendments, and that is the right to counsel. So a state public defender is currently in all Illinois counties except Cook. Judges can hire and fire chief public defenders at will. This goes against the national standards set by the American Bar Association, which calls for public defenders to be completely independent. Only one state, Mississippi, still does this, highlighting the need to update this system in Illinois. So this creates the State Public Defender Act, establishing the Office of the State Public Defender under the courts, setting the rules for public defenders' powers, pay, and how they are appointed, and forming a commission to oversee the office and identify its operational costs and funding requirements. At the local level, county offices will mirror this structure to strengthen local defenses across the state. So that goes into law January 1, 2027. It gives some time for the courts to put this into effect. Into new law is a law from State Senator Julie Morrison to eliminate the use of toxic forever chemicals in everyday items like cosmetics, dental floss, and children's products. Marks a significant step towards keeping harmful substances out of people's homes and bodies. So certainly PFASs intentionally bars the new law bans intentionally added PFASs from several categories of products sold and distributed in the state beginning January 1, 2032. So there's a phase-out period. So this law goes into effect in the future, 2032. As you might know, cosmetics, dental floss, children's items, intimate apparel, PFAS exposure is likely to be frequent or prolonged, especially in vulnerable populations like children. So that takes effect. Then we had a new law to make it easier for parents and guardians to see their kids' mental health records. House Bill 2994 gives parents of students receiving special education services access to their child's mental health records regarding to service the parents consent to on the child's behalf. So the premise of the law made the access to records unclear and limited as children grew older. The new law will help improve understanding between teachers and families. And then Senator Marianne Lealon, who was a representative when I was in, was working with multiple education stakeholders to pass a law that will address unnecessary and burdensome Illinois school code mandates. So we hear about this a lot, mandates on schools. And so what this does is this creates the School Code Mandate Reduction Council. Will begin evaluating the 699 mandates introduced since 1982. And so this is an essential step toward improving our laws to fit with the evolving education landscape. So there are redundant and unnecessary school code mandates. They have to be agreed upon by statewide educational stakeholders. And the council is comprised of 8 members of the General Assembly, 1 member from each of the 12 statewide educational organizations to identify and recommend the removal of the mandates. So certainly that was signed into law. An additional bill that was signed into law requires the Illinois Department of Corrections report data on hospice care available to prisoners. So the Department of Corrections does not have a formal hospice program, as in end-of-life care that is provided in a prison by prison basis, and has led to inconsistent care for prisoners diagnosed with terminal illness or who are expected to reach their end of natural life. So the Illinois Department of Corrections now will have to report data on how they are caring for these individuals that are unfortunately in our prison system. State Representative Patrick Sheehan, this is a bipartisan bill, 1842. It's designed to enhance fairness, transparency, and effectiveness of municipal code enforcement proceedings. It was signed into law. It ensures local governments have the tools they need to uphold local code while also protecting the rights of the residents. So setting consistent rules and requiring formal training for hearing officers while promoting accountability and fairness across the board. Another common sense bill. It establishes clear standards for the administrative hearing officers and reinforces due process for individuals facing municipal code violations. The senator next to me, Senator Ellman, has had a bill that was signed for middle school students across Illinois will soon have the opportunity to get a head start on their high school education. And she passed those laws to allow them to take bills that take courses that would translate to high school education. So they can take a course at the high school without taking high school students' seats. They can take the course at their middle school and pass the same final exams at the end of the high school. Take the course from the teacher properly licensed and endorsed to teach the subject at the high school level. So that was signed into law. So certainly we are just, there was a lot of bills that was passed, and certainly there are quite a bit of that. Now, one of the bills that was passed is called One Click College Admit. So it's a program where high school seniors and transfer students can apply to and receive acceptance to state colleges based solely on their GPAs. Now, so it's acknowledging that some people, they don't take tests well, but they do well in school. And so this is an admission of that and working with students to allow them to attend college to undergraduate schools. So what they can do is total, in a 2024 report, the Illinois Education Commission found that between 2017, 2018, and 2021, 2022, Chicago State University lost 31% of its student headcount, and Northeastern Illinois University lost 40%. So these are 2 public schools that showed some of the earliest signs of struggle. So what this is going to do is allow individuals to be accepted to Illinois public schools based on their GPA. So certainly, just so that you know, that there is a bit of a decrease in high school students, and anything we can do to help them out, we should do. And I truly believe that really your GPA shows what you can do throughout the class. One test does not. So that's that's certainly something that we need to look at. So that is just a bit of the laws. There's other laws that came into play. We did sign the Safe Schools for All Act. It is an act that will help protect families. The law prohibits public schools from denying any student access to their education based on any status or immigration status. The law also prohibits schools from disclosing or threatening to disclose information related to the immigration status of the students or an associated person. So certainly what we're seeing right now is a lot of immigration without due process and a lot of targeting. And we really, I believe, need to protect all individuals and especially children with regards to this situation. And so we passed that law. There's a new Illinois law to create the student investment program within the state treasurer's office. So this is about getting people the ability to offer another option to Illinois so that at the end of the day, they'll be able to have more money in their pockets and be able to afford the loans that they're currently on the hook for. So what this does is it addresses people that are still paying student loans. And they have to have the opportunity to refinance these very, very high interest rate loans. And they can go through a program like what we created to help refinance and help individuals. So it certainly will take effect. It took effect last Friday, and it's really, really will help out. Then we are looking at a law that addresses the Illinois Department of Human Rights is an agency that's responsible for investigating and enforcing the state's anti-discrimination laws. So we had a bill 2487 that seeks to streamline the department's investigations and improve efficiency by allowing the agency to determine whether a fact-finding conference is necessary on a case-by-case basis. Currently, they are required to hold a fact-finding conference for most discrimination cases. The change aims to prevent unnecessary delays and ensure that each discrimination case received a tailored investigation. And then we had a law from the CPA Society, one of the largest state associations serving the certified public accountant community. The new law evolves Illinois' CPA licensure framework in response to talent pipeline issues, shifting demographics, and changing financial and audit regulatory standards. They amend the Illinois Public Accounting Act to create 2 additional pathways to CPA licensure in Illinois. This is scheduled to be implemented in 2027. So these 2 new pathways include obtaining a bachelor's degree with a concentration in accounting, completing at least 2 years of relevant work experience, and passing the CPA exam, or obtaining a master's degree with the required concentration in accounting, completing at least 1 year of relevant work experiencing, and passing the CPA exam. So that is certainly going to help out. A couple more bills. Again, there's a lot of bills that were signed. So this is, I guess, the session of the bills. So my good friend, State Rep Kimberly DeBouquet, will help ensure that the state only invests state dollars in financial institutions that make it a priority to guarantee access to financial services to all consumers, regardless of their background. So certainly, there have been issues where many low and moderate income residents had to rely on payday loan lenders and other less reliable methods to meet their financial need. To attain a passing rating, institutions must adequately advertise services to the community, offer non-digital alternatives, and not engage in discriminatory practices. A new state law signed on Friday will ensure that Illinois' K-9 units receive veterinary care after they retire. So our police K-9 dogs do so much for us, and they deserve care after they retired. So House Bill 3140 creates the Police K-9 Care Program and the Police K-9 Care Fund. Certainly this will help pay for their care. Handlers would be reimbursed for retired police dogs' veterinary care up to $1,500 per dog. The care includes annual wellness exams, vaccinations, parasite prevention treatments, surgery, and more. So, and then looking at bills that help out with the veteran community, of which I am a part of. Senate Bill 1160 allows people who served in the United Nations Protection Forces in Somalia, Panama, and Guatemala to apply for the force's license plate. And the second bill, House Bill 2572, affects the Dependents Educational Opportunity Grant Act and scholarship. It allows the Veterans Department to change the language surrounding the scholarship. Before this, they couldn't change the rules. They both go into effect at the start of the year. And then Representative Han Win has a new law that simulation training will be considered an approved form of continuing education for licensed healthcare professionals. So simulation training is provided by an approved sponsor to count towards a licensed healthcare professional's continuing education requirement, aiming to modernize professional education to help retain healthcare workers. So right now, currently, simulation-based training for medical licenses is not required by the Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. However, we are attempting to add this training to be an approved method, expanding opportunities for hands-on learning. So this is just giving you a snippet of what goes across the governor's desk, what gets passed, and what is going to be. Now, again, I've talked about this before, but driver test for seniors. Only drivers 87 and older will have to take an annual driver's test. The previous age for the mandatory yearly driver test was 79. Illinois drivers between 79 and 86 won't be required to take a driver's test or renew their license. Instead, they will only have to take a vision test. And if they have a driving violation, a written test. The law takes effect July 1, 2026. So individuals were asking me when it goes into effect, 2026. Warehouse Tornado Safety Act was signed, new warehouse standards for safety, and then we just passed a bill to certify nurse midwives to enter a written agreement with a physician. So those are a lot. I talked about the crypto bills that was signed with regards to that as well. So a lot of bills got signed this week, and certainly that is something that comes across my desk all the time. Now, what also comes across my desk is, of course, studies and reports. And so in Illinois, enrollment in pre-apprenticeship training programs since 2017 has led to a 95% and a 202% jump in the number of Black and female apprentices, respectively, according to research by the nonpartisan Illinois Economic Policy Institute and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign's Project for Middle Class Renewal. So, preparing workers for skilled trade apprenticeships has significantly boosted these individuals to enter Illinois' construction workforce and also yields a big return on investment. So we invested $66 million in construction careers and the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program since 2017, and that has translated into an investment of about $12,000 per program participant and $35,000 per placed apprentice. Now, for pre-apprentices who get jobs in skilled trade, the program yields a 900% return on investment over 10 years because now they are in a job and they are working and contributing to our community and our state. So more pre-apprenticeship hubs have been created as part of the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. And in 2024, they won nearly $40 million in grants for clean energy regional pre-apprenticeships and workforce hubs. So programs that are run by community colleges and nonprofits, such as the 548 Foundation, they focus, these programs sometimes focus on things such as the solar industry training. So that report comes through my desk. And speaking of economic opportunity, Right here in Kane County, we have the Illinois manufacturer Richardson Electronics, and they are expanding. I might have talked about it before, and now I'm talking about it again because it's great news. Leader in global manufacturing of engineered solutions and green energy products, the power grid, and microwave tubes, and more. They are expanding its operations and manufacturing headquarters that are in La Fox, Illinois, so just a little bit north of here. They're going to make a capital investment of more than $8.5 million over the next 4 years to support and expand operations to nearly 200 skilled employees and create 54 new full-time jobs in the region. So this is part of the initiative called the Reimagining Energy and Vehicle Act that we passed, called the REV program in Illinois. So very excited to have that coming to King County. And then speaking of batteries and Illinois and Ohio ranks fourth. We rank fourth. Ohio ranks fifth in the nation behind Virginia, Texas, and California in terms of the number of data centers that we house. And the purpose is mostly crypto mining, cloud computing, and generating artificial intelligence. So over the past year or two, they call it the AI arms race has heated up, and the size and scope of these centers have mushroomed, and the pace at which these behemoths are being built is astronomical. So these big tech giants such as Meta and Microsoft, 10,000 square feet or more with 5,000 plus servers. Now you think, okay, that's electricity. But it also can consume 1 million to 5 million gallons of water each day. Of course, 365 million waters a year or more, or as much as 12,000 Americans annually use put together. So, not a single Great Lakes state currently has water management mechanisms in place to curb this over-extraction and what could be termed dewatering before it happens. So the first step would be revising state groundwater management laws. So we have to sit and look at not only the drain on our power grid, but also how many gallons of water and resources that artificial intelligence brings in over the next 5 years nationwide over the United States. These data centers are going to be expected to use more than 150 billion gallons of water across the U.S. That's enough water to supply 4.6 million homes. They need this water for cooling because of the large size of their operation. Sometimes, as I said, more than 10,000 square feet. So an enormous amount is needed for each site. But in almost all instances, the water is being drawn from a single data center development is unknown because secrecy agreements between government bodies and companies keep this information from being publicly disclosed. So these non-disclosure agreements that companies ask municipalities to sign when they propose a data center obscure how much water is needed and where it would come from. And it makes it really difficult for us as a state to be able to, number one, manage, or number two, look at water usage that's not for you and I, because we need to drink water. So in February, State Senator Steve Seidelman passed a bill that would require data centers to disclose how much electricity and water they used, but it didn't quite get to a vote before the legislative ended. So he filed the bill, it didn't get to a vote, but we certainly need to have that information. In Michigan, for example, companies proposing data centers now must show that there's enough existing water supply to support the facility. Illinois is trying to follow Michigan. So that's some things that we are looking on. And then also what we have is many data centers rely on evaporative cooling, or it's called swamp cooling, where warm air is drawn through wet pads. Data centers typically evaporate about 80% of the water they draw, discharging 20% back into a wastewater treatment facility. And residential water usage by comparison loses just 10% to evaporation, discharging the other 90% back into the water supply. So it goes into the wastewater treatment, gets cleaned, and then goes back into the community. It does not get evaporated. So this is something that, again, is on our desk that we are working on as a state, and really is a huge issue. I know data centers are the thing of the future, and but certainly we need to look at our water supply in terms of that. And then finally, speaking of all this combined, ComEd and Ameren, Illinois, has claimed customers of ComEd and Ameren, Illinois have lost more than $2 billion over the past 10 years to alternative energy suppliers. So this is the business known for ringing people's doorbells and promising great deals, according to an analysis by the state data by the nonprofit Citizens Utility Board. So Cub executive director called Illinois a buyer beware market. Offers are legal. They are legal. But often they don't deliver the long-term savings that they claim for, which Cub is now calling for more consumer protection. So this is what our role in government is. We are looking at these bad actors and we need to hold them accountable. So in the past, consumers who used alternative suppliers for electricity overpaid by $258 million, the analysis found. A Sun Times investigation last year found that decades after Illinois deregulated the electricity and natural gas markets, consumers continued to complain about alternative suppliers. So some said they didn't realize their accounts had been switched until their bills shot up in price. Other consumers willingly signed up for an alternative supplier's deal, but complained that their bills rose higher than expected after the introductory rate ended. So that is something that certainly you need to be on the lookout for. ComEd and Ameren bill customers for delivering electricity over the power lines that they own. However, under Illinois law, those customers can choose another company, an alternative supplier, to supply the actual electricity. So the Illinois Commerce Commission Office of Retail Market Development recently released its 2025 annual report, another report that comes across my desk, covering June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2025. And here are some findings. As of May 2025, about 1.18 million Illinois households were with an alternative supplier. That's about 14% decrease from the year before. About 20% of ComEd residential customers and about 43% of Ameren customers were with an alternative supplier. So ComEd customers who are with an alternative supplier on average paid about 2.74 cents per kilowatt hour more compared with ComEd's supply price. Ameren customers who were with an alternative supplier on average paid about 1.78 cents per kilowatt more compared to Ameren's supply rate. So the highest alternative supplier rate that the ICC found were a 39-cent kilowatt variant rate in ComEd territory and a 29 cents kilowatt variant rate in Ameren territory. Both prices were about 4 to 6 times higher than the utility supply prices at the time. So if you talk to the Cub spokesperson, supply choice exists because Illinois is a deregulated state. In some communities, leaders have negotiated decent deals with alternative suppliers through municipal aggregation. But that's different than the people that are knocking on your door doing in-person marketing, sending you mailers and calling you on the phone. Nobody can guarantee savings. In fact, the market has been just riddled with ripoffs and scams. So buyer beware. Your best bet is likely with the utility. And so that is why the Cub spokesperson is pushing for more consumer protections. House Bill 1284 would be a step in the right direction. So those are some unfinished bills that might be around for veto session. So certainly that is just the Springfield update that we have. I'm gonna just check my notes really quick. The LGBTQ IA hotline, plus hotline and resource hub has launched. So the Department of Human Services and community partners launched the Illinois Pride Connect, a new statewide resource hub and first ever legal hotline for LGBTQIA plus individuals. The expanded resources include legal FAQs, know your rights information, and referral to community services. And the hotline will provide real-time information and referrals to services that they may need. Illinois sports books set a record in June, believe it or not. Illinois sports books are in line with national trends, and operators produced their biggest win rate ever in Illinois. June reports show a 33% year-over-year revenue growth. June is the final month under the state's previous tax structure. So in July, a new 25-cent to 50-cent per bet tax went into effect. ICJA, the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, released its 2025 to 2029 statewide violence prevention plan as a framework to inform future grant making. And then a federal judge threw out the Trump administration's challenge to an Illinois law that regulates employers' use of the E-Verify program, rejecting the administration's broad argument that state law is preempted by federal statute. So E-Verify is a federal program that allows employers to check workers' self-submitted information against government records to confirm their work authorization status. It requires employers to give employees notice of their rights to contest a finding in case there's an error. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services will begin providing states with monthly reports identifying enrolled individuals whose citizenship or immigration status cannot be confirmed through the federal databases. Now, it has always been the case that undocumented individuals are not eligible for Medicaid coverage. So this is more information coming to our state from the federal government. And then student tax credits. So there's a K through 12 instructional materials and supplies tax credit supports teachers, instructors, counselors, principals, and aides with up to $500 in tax credits for out-of-pocket spending on classroom materials. So certainly that is going to affect as well. And then finally, those that are on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. The federal changes to this program will impact Illinois' food economy with more than 1.8 million Illinoisans, or 15% of our population, relying on SNAP benefits. So nearly 1 in 5 recipients are expected to lose their benefits due to the new work requirement rules, increasing the demand on food pantries, reducing economic activity, particularly downstate, and putting more pressure on Illinois state budget with an additional $800 million needed to cover the shift of administrative and benefit costs from the federal government to the states. So that is a pressure that we're going to be seeing. And then I will finish up with Intersect Illinois rebrands. So Intersect Illinois is the public-private effort to recruit businesses to the state, is rebranding as the Illinois Economic Development Corp. And the organization was launched nearly a decade ago under Governor Rauner, was integrated into the governor's office under Governor Pritzker, and now boasts 56 corporate members. So they are being rebranded. So that is a bit of an update for you. We are going to engage in a bit of Q&A. So we will be rolling out a form that you can fill out, kind of an ask the representative. Any questions that are on your mind, we will be sending that out. I would encourage you to sign up for email updates at ildistrict84.com, and we will be sending that form out via email. And if there is a question that you would like answered that we can research and get the answer on our next Facebook Live, certainly we will get that to you. So It might not be next Monday's Facebook Live, but it might be the Monday after that. So we are really excited about this new program, Ask the Rep, and it will be and details will be coming to you on in your inbox. So sign up for emails, ildistrict84.com. And then, as usual, you can always send me an email or call the office if you need some assistance. So take care, everybody. Be well. Happy Wednesday. And we'll be back with you next week on Monday. Take care and have a great day.